We've got plenty to talk about today, but I want to start things off by throwing this question your way. Should the Browns be sellers? With the NFL trade deadline just over a week away, should Andrew Berry be looking to maybe unload some players and get some picks and start thinking for the future? Let me know what you think, yes or no, in the comments while this intro video rolls. Welcome into the 2-5 Cleveland Browns report, and boy do we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to run through the latest injury news on David Njoku, and then it's just trade galore, right? The NFL trade deadline is 8 days away, and the Browns might be very active in that, and there are reports coming out that players on the Browns roster are tradable, right? They are on the market. But let's start things off with the injury news here. And that is, unfortunately, more bad news for Cleveland. David Njoku, it's a real bummer to see. Really sucks to see a guy like Njoku finally have a true breakout season and have his best year yet, and he suffers an ankle injury in the loss. Left the game in boots and crutches. We'll get more detail on him in just a moment. Denzel Ward, still in concussion protocol. Jacob Phillips, he is likely done for the season per Stefanski. He suffered a torn pec. So if you wanted more of Deion Jones, you're going to get more of Deion Jones now. And then Pharaoh Brown, he is also in concussion protocol. We'll get more updates on Ward and Brown and some other guys later on in the week. But let's talk about Njoku for a moment here. Adam Schefter putting out on Twitter that further testing revealed that Browns tight end David Njoku suffered a high ankle sprain that will not require surgery, but is expected to sideline him 2 to 5 weeks. Fingers crossed it's 2 and not 5 because Njoku has been awesome this year. I don't stand up here and tell you this as brand new information, but I stand up here and tell you this because I can't stop talking about it, right? He's been the best version of himself we've seen through 5 years so far with the Browns. He was on pace for over 1,000 yards. Yes, statistically just 2 touchdowns, but he was really starting to cook the last month or so, and I bet 2 would have been closer to like 5 or something like that. In fact, he probably would have had more than 1,015 yards. That is just an average. In week 1, I think he only had 7 yards against the Panthers. Since then, he has been rock solid for 75 plus yards and 6 to 10 receptions a game. Now, here's my question for the Browns and really for everyone watching. Look at the target leaders right now for Jacoby Brissett and this Browns offense. Amari Cooper's number 1 at 59 targets through 7 weeks. Njoku and DPJ are tied for second. So if Njoku's going to miss 2 to 5 weeks, whatever it is, who's going to step up and take over his target share? Is it going to be David Bell? Is it going to be more of Harrison Bryant? It's going to be a tough ask and a big challenge for this Browns offense to replace a player who has the second most targets on this offense. That is not a simple next man up mentality, right? That is next man up and then some more because Njoku has been a staple of this air raid for Cleveland. All right, I also want to throw this your way. I'm sure we all would like to see this. Cameron Justice tweeting out that Kevin Stefanski said he still hasn't received an answer on the apparent phantom false start penalty. He'll keep talking with the league about it. I don't know what's more egregious. The phantom false start or the subjective offensive pass interference. I mean, pass interference is subjective, right? You're never going to have it be black and white. But I've watched the clip 1,000 times of Hewlett snapping it or about to snap it. No one moves. The long snapper is allowed to move his head down. That's not false start, right? I see a big jump from the Ravens side. I see nothing on the Browns side. Egregious. Now, we're going to get into some Kevin Stefanski hot seat rumors here in just a second because there have been a handful of people on Twitter beating the drum of time to move on from Kevin Stefanski. And I want to get to the record straight on this right now. Deshaun Watson picked Cleveland in part because of Kevin Stefanski. So in my mind, Kevin Stefanski is going nowhere midseason. If you are expecting the Browns to make a midseason firing, you are disappointed. Now, I understand why you might be frustrated with Kevin Stefanski. I'm not standing up here right now defending him to the ends of the earth right now, right? But I think it should be noted and abundantly clear that Stefanski is not going to be going anywhere, and Watson picked Cleveland in part because of Stefanski, and I think that's getting lost on people. So let's remind everyone, and Chops did a lot of fighting on Twitter over this, and so I want to bring in some cavalry for him. Let's go back to what Jason Lloyd put in The Athletic right after the trade went down, all right? Here is what Jason Lloyd said. Most of the rest of the meeting was devoted to Stefanski and Watson. The Browns didn't want to bore Watson with some PowerPoint presentation, and they weren't sure what type of equipment would be available to them at Harden's offices. So Stefanski brought an iPad loaded with film clips. The Browns cut up all of Watson's RPOs from the 2019 and 2020 season and organized them by what the Texans did most areas where Watson excelled. Stefanski sat the iPad between the two of them and showed a play the Browns ran and then followed it with a clip of Watson doing the same thing with the Texans. Stefanski ran the clicker and the two talked football for nearly an hour while no one else in the room could see the screen or what they were discussing. There is this idea out there that Kevin Stefanski was not a role player in Watson picking the Browns over the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. Erroneous, right? It's just false. Kevin Stefanski was absolutely a factor in Deshaun Watson coming to Cleveland. So no, Andrew Berry is not going to fire the head coach that he just got it because of... Andrew Berry is not going to fire the head coach that Deshaun Watson agreed to come to play for midway through the season. Okay? That's just not going to happen. And there's more on this, by the way. Here's what Jason Lloyd said later on in his article. Watson's side never shopped the offer. When the stunning announcement was made that Watson was headed to Cleveland and contract details emerged, one team called and asked why it wasn't given an opportunity to match. Because they insisted they would have. The answer? Watson wanted to go to Cleveland. His only hurdle had been moving to a city where he never really been before. And with that, I remind you guys, Stefanski is here to stay for the rest of this season, and truthfully, probably all of next season, where he's got his first real season with Deshaun Watson throughout the entire offseason and all of training camp and all of preseason. Andrew Berry is not going to pull the plug on his head coach midway through the year with a backup QB where the offense is averaging over 3+ touchdowns a game. Right? The Browns have lost 4 out of 5 games by 3 or less points. Don't you think with Watson, 4 of those losses, a handful of them would have been wins? Probably. All right, we're going to get to more trade rumors now in just a second here, but I am calling on all diehard Browns fans because if you're watching today's video and you have not subscribed, that tells me 2 things. 1, you're missing out on free daily Browns content. 2, you're going to ride or die with this team. You're not going anywhere. You're not fucking leaving. Even if things are not going to plan, you are keeping it right here. So subscribe right now if you want to beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football. I also want to give a quick shout out right now to T-Bone64 Brown. He sent a super thanks into the channel. T-Bone, thank you so much for that contribution to the show and left a very detailed comment. I took a little snippet from it, wanted to share with all of you guys watching, kind of make up your own mind. T-Bone has 3 prongs that he thinks could turn this season around, one of them including Josh Dobbs playing quarterback. I'm not going to go all the way there. I don't think it's time to bench Jacoby Brissett. But T-Bone, thank you very much for the super thanks. Really appreciate your support and contribution to the show. All right, here we go. The trade segment of today's show. Are the Browns sellers, right? The NFL trade deadline, first Tuesday in November. That is November 1st, 8 days away from right now. And might the Browns be sellers? So if they are, let me actually preface with this. Tomorrow's video is probably going to be a big, deep in-dive on trade rumors because on Twitter I'm seeing things from Denzel Ward being traded, which is not going to happen, to some legit possibilities like Kareem Hunt. So the Kareem Hunt is my first of 3 trade candidates I could see the Browns moving leading up to that trade deadline. These are just candidates. These are not players I necessarily want to see traded. But Brad Stainbrook over at the Orange and Brown Report tweeting out that the Browns are listening to offers on Kareem Hunt per a league source. So we got to talk about it. And I have been the president, CEO, chairman, and dictator of keep Kareem Hunt in Cleveland. But even I've got my breaking point. Where when the team is 2-5 and they're playing the Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, and Bucks the next 4 weeks, 3.5 really tough teams, maybe you should pick up the phone. Maybe you should listen to calls on Kareem Hunt. Now, you're not going to get what he's worth in a trade. That's just the way the running back market works. Teams continue to get burned by running back trades, going back to Herschel Walker to Trent Richardson, right? So with that in mind, if you are expecting a third or a second round pick, it ain't happening. So quit asking. But here's what Kareem Hunt has done this season for the Browns. He has been a very explosive player, sort of. I'm not going to knock Kareem Hunt this year. 263 yards, 4 touchdowns. But he definitely hasn't been a running back that is going to dramatically increase his trade value and move the needle from a 5th to a 4th. Right? I don't think he has just set the league on fire as a backup running back that makes you wonder, I wonder what he could do with 80% of the carries. Hunt's been great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's been bad, but I'm just saying he hasn't looked like a Pro Bowl running back in the shadows of Nick Chubb so far this season. He has looked like what he is, the best RB2 on a team in the NFL. It would be RB1 on probably majority of teams here. Now, here's my trade idea. This one comes from Peter King over at NBC, who reported that the Rams drove up the 49ers trade offer for Christian McCaffrey because they had a bidding war going on. So might we see the Rams call and ask about Kareem Hunt as a consolation prize? We know that LA and Cleveland have no problem trading Troy Hill. So maybe Hunt is their backup plan. After failing to get Christian McCaffrey, they settled for Kareem Hunt, giving the Browns a 4th-round pick. Pro Football Focus once said he'd be good for a 2024 6. I thought that was way too low. I don't think you're going to get a 3rd for him, but I think a 4th, it'd be tough to pass up on. So would you do this trade? Even me, I have to think about this. A for accept, D for decline. Would you do this trade? I have to consider it. For where the team is right now, you have to listen to every option out there. For a 4th rounder, I'm torn. I don't make me answer this question. All right, next one up here is Greedy Williams, another player that reportedly has been getting some trade buzz so far as we get closer to that trade deadline. So, Stainbrook reporting, just like Kareem Hunt, that the Browns are listening to offers on DB Greedy Williams. And it makes a lot of sense here. One, I was very curious to see what the reps would be like when Greedy Williams returned off IR with Martin Emerson doing a decent job starting in his place. And in week 7, it was primarily Martin Emerson. He had 63 snaps to Greedy Williams' 14. And that's without Denzel Ward, right? If Denzel Ward's healthy last week, it's Emerson, Newsome, and Ward. Williams might be out of a job, and entering the last year of his contract, he might be out of a role with the Browns. So maybe Cleveland knows, hey, every single team out there looking to make a playoff push is thinking we cannot have enough DBs. The Vikings are a team that comes to mind that need help in the secondary. Greedy Williams makes a lot of sense to trade. All right, we're going to get to one final trade candidate in just a second. But if you have not already, make sure you check out BetUS. Listen, when you go to chatsports.com/bet and enter promo code Browns125, that's going to unlock a 125% deposit bonus. In English, you put 100 bones in, they give you an additional 125. Now you got 225 to bet with. Not going to stand up here and advertise betting on the Cleveland Browns, but you can bet on the rest of the league, college football, the Buckeyes, whatever it is. Just make sure all your picks are being made over at chatsports.com/bet, promo code Browns125. All right, this next trade candidate is like a dark horse one. I saw it mentioned yesterday on Twitter. I was going back and forth with someone about, well, who are the Browns going to sell? And Jack Conklin is a name. I don't think it happens. But he's another player that's on the last year of his contract. And maybe Andrew Berry wants to put the wheels in motion to start James Hudson at right tackle if that's the plan after Conklin leaves, most likely after this season. I would not trade Conklin, barring a ridiculous offer that you can't turn down. If a team calls the Browns and offers a second-round pick, I'm taking it. Because I don't think it's that big of a drop from Conklin to Hudson that a second-rounder can't make up for. You see what I'm saying? I think the Browns, with 2 second-round picks next year, without a first, can still do some damage in this draft. Now, Conklin has been one of the best tackles since coming in week 3 against the Steelers and playing, every snap since then. PFF has him ranked as the 15th best offensive tackle. Now, with James Hudson, it's not that big of a drop-off. He has not played as much football, granted, but PFF, in their eyes, they see him as the 34th best tackle. So Hudson, plus a ridiculous offer, that's probably not coming, but still, you never know if an injury were to happen and a team feels they are a tackle away from making a postseason run. Tell me Hudson in a second-round pick isn't enticing. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I appreciate everyone clicking on to today's video. I know it was a bit long. We had a lot to get to on today's show, and we're probably going to have a lot of ground to cover the next couple of days with trade rumors and all that stuff heating up. So keep it tapped in right here at the channel by clicking onto that subscribe button.